The morning sun spread across the military base, casting long golden lines over the asphalt. Soldiers moved with precision, boots striking in rhythm, voices calling out commands. At the center of it all walked Steven Seagal, calm and composed, hands placed behind his back. He was not there as an actor or a celebrity today. He served as an advisor, helping troops build discipline and self-control through martial arts training. Despite the uniform and the quiet authority he carried, some still whispered as he passed. To many he was a legend. To others, a man who did not belong in a place ruled by rank and tradition. But Seagal did not mind. He had seen the world, faced real danger, and learned that true strength speaks softly. As he crossed the courtyard, the sound of marching stopped. A convoy of black vehicles rolled through the gate. From the front jeep stepped General Harrison Cole, a man known for strict discipline, a cold stare, and zero tolerance for what he called Hollywood soldiers. His chest was heavy with medals, his pride even heavier. The two men locked eyes. Seagal offered a respectful nod. The general did not return it. Instead, he looked him up and down, unimpressed. "So this is the famous movie star they brought to teach my men how to fight." His voice carried clearly for everyone nearby to hear. Seagal smiled faintly. "Just trying to help where I can, sir." The general stepped closer, his boots crunching gravel. "Help. I have real soldiers who have bled for this country. You think your little movie tricks make you one of them?" The courtyard fell silent. Young cadets froze in place, unsure whether to look away or watch. Seagal did not flinch. His calm only seemed to irritate the general more. "Answer me," Cole barked, his face inches from Seagal's. For a long second, Seagal said nothing. He met the glare with steady eyes. Then, in a quiet tone that carried more weight than a shout, he replied, "Respect goes both ways, General." A ripple moved through the crowd. The general's jaw tightened. He took one deliberate step closer, his voice low and sharp. "Be careful, Mr. Seagal. You are on my base now." Under the eyes of hundreds of soldiers, tension ignited. What began as a casual morning inspection was turning into something else entirely. A quiet storm formed between two men who could not be more different. The soldiers nearby sensed it. They pretended to stay focused, but every eye was drawn to that single spot in the courtyard where Steven Seagal stood face to face with General Harrison Cole. The general stepped forward again, slow and deliberate, boots grinding against the gravel. "You think discipline is about breathing and balance, Mr. Seagal? You think you can walk in here and turn my soldiers into movie extras?" Seagal's voice remained steady. "Discipline is not about control, sir. It is about respect. Every soldier knows that." The words landed like a quiet strike, not loud but firm. The general's nostrils flared. A few cadets exchanged nervous looks. They had seen his temper before, but never in front of someone like Seagal. Cole leaned closer. "Respect? You think you know respect? You have been living in Hollywood, son. Out here, respect is earned, not directed." Seagal did not move. His stillness only added to the pressure. The wind snapped through the flags above like distant thunder. "I've trained men who went to war," the general continued, his voice rising. "Men who bled for this country. And now command sends me a movie star who stages fake fights and sells tickets." Several soldiers shifted uncomfortably. No one dared interrupt. Seagal finally spoke, quiet but firm. "Sir, I have worked with real soldiers too. I have seen what discipline means when it is life or death. And I have seen what happens when ego takes over." The change in the general's expression was immediate. "Are you calling me egotistical, Mr. Seagal?" he snapped. "I am saying pride can be dangerous," Seagal replied calmly. The silence deepened. The general's fists tightened. For a man used to full obedience, even polite resistance felt like an attack. "You listen to me," the general said, his voice trembling with anger. "You may impress Hollywood but not me. On this base my word is law. You follow orders or you leave." Seagal looked straight into his eyes. "Then give me an order worth following." Several jaws dropped. Even those trying to stay neutral could not hide their surprise. A few lips tightened, not in laughter but in approval. Cole noticed. It only fueled his anger. "You think this is funny? You think you can embarrass me in front of my men?" Seagal shook his head. "I am not here to embarrass anyone, sir. I am here to teach your soldiers what self-control looks like." The sentence echoed across the courtyard. It was not loud, but it carried weight. Truth tends to do that. The general's jaw locked. His voice dropped into a harsh tone. "You talk a lot, Mr. Seagal. Let us see if you can support it." He stepped forward into Seagal's space. Too close. Too aggressive. The tension felt so thick that even the wind seemed to pause. A young cadet whispered, "This is going bad." Another muttered, "Why is the general doing this?" No one answered. Seagal stood still as stone, his face unreadable. Years of discipline and emotional control showed in that moment. He neither blinked nor flinched. The general turned sharply to the nearest platoon and shouted, "Eyes on me. All of you." Dozens of soldiers stopped their tasks and watched openly. The courtyard became an unplanned stage. Cole pointed at Seagal. "This man thinks calm words make him strong. Let us see how calm he stays under pressure." A murmur passed through the formation. This was no longer professional. It was personal. Seagal's voice stayed level. "With respect, General, strength is not proven by who shouts the loudest." The general sneered. "Then show me yours." He motioned to his soldiers. "Get ready. You are about to learn something." As he stepped closer again, posture rigid, eyes burning, it became clear this would not stay verbal. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Phones were raised, capturing every second. No one wanted to miss what was about to happen. The general raised his voice one last time. "You have 5 seconds to prove you belong here, or I will make sure you regret ever stepping foot on my base." Seagal's expression did not change. "Then let us both try to earn some respect today." Hearts pounded across the formation. Everyone felt it. Something was about to snap. The tension reached its limit. When authority meets calm resistance, something always gives. The general's face turned red with rage as he glared at Seagal. "You think you can come here and lecture me about discipline?" he shouted. Seagal remained still. "I believe everyone deserves to be treated like human beings, sir, even soldiers." That sentence pushed the general beyond control. In a sudden burst of anger, he lunged forward, grabbed Seagal by the hair, and yanked his head back. The courtyard froze. Boots shifted on gravel as soldiers straightened in shock. Gasps moved through the ranks. Some younger soldiers took a step forward, then stopped when they saw Seagal's face. He did not shout. He did not strike back. He remained calm, completely still. The kind of calm that unsettles even the aggressor. The general tightened his grip. "You think calm makes you untouchable?" he growled. "Let us see how calm you stay now." Seagal's voice dropped, steady and cold. "Sir, I suggest you let go before you regret what happens next." The general laughed sharply. "Or what, Mr. Hollywood? You going to use one of your movie tricks?" Seagal's eyes narrowed slightly. "This is not a movie, and I do not perform tricks." For 3 long seconds the grip remained. The soldiers began to realize something important. Seagal was not resisting because he had chosen not to. Then it happened. With almost no visible effort, Seagal shifted his stance. His hand moved slowly, precisely, resting on the general's wrist. In one sudden motion, the general was on the ground. His arm twisted, body pinned, Seagal standing over him calm, controlled and steady. The soldiers stared in disbelief. It did not look like a fight. It looked like gravity had turned against the general. The man who moments ago held full authority now stared upward, breathless. Seagal leaned slightly forward. "You taught your men obedience through fear," he said quietly. "But real discipline comes from respect." No one spoke. Silence ruled the courtyard. Seagal released the general's arm and stepped back, not out of mercy but principle. The general pushed himself up, shaken and exposed. He looked at his soldiers, saw the shock on their faces and for the first time had no response. His voice cracked. How did you do that?" Seagal replied calmly. "By not answering anger with anger." The words settled over the crowd. A few soldiers nodded in quiet understanding. The general adjusted his uniform, struggling to regain control. "You've made your point," he muttered. But Seagal was not finished teaching. "I didn't make a point, General," he replied. "You simply learned one." There was no pride in his voice, only calm truth. The base fell silent for several seconds. The tension faded from the air and was replaced by a quiet stillness, the kind that follows a storm. At last a soldier spoke softly. "Sir, are you all right?" The general looked at him, then at Seagal and slowly nodded. "I'm fine," he said. Dismissed. As the soldiers began to disperse, whispers spread quickly. "Did you see that? He didn't even strike him. He flipped him like it was nothing. That's not raw power. That's control." The story moved fast across the base. Within minutes, everyone was talking about what had occurred. The moment when the general grabbed a Hollywood martial artist by the hair and was quietly humbled in front of his entire command. The most unusual part was that Seagal never boasted. He simply adjusted his collar, turned away and said to the few soldiers nearby, "Remember, the strongest person in the room is the one who does not need to prove it." If you were in Seagal's position, grabbed by your superior in front of everyone, would you stay calm or fight back? Be honest. Share your answer in the comments and tell us where you are watching from. As the general stood alone brushing dust from his uniform, he looked toward Seagal walking away. There was no anger now, only respect. And for the first time in a long while, the general understood something important. Authority can demand obedience, but respect must be earned. That lesson stayed with every man and woman on the base. A reminder that one calm moment can quiet an entire storm. The afternoon sun dropped lower, casting long shadows across the grounds. What had happened earlier still weighed on the atmosphere. Soldiers moved quietly, their usual chatter replaced by low talk about that incident. No one could quite believe it. The most feared general on base had been disarmed with ease by a man who never raised his voice. Inside his office, General Harrison Cole sat alone, staring into the dark glass of the window. His uniform was pressed again, his medals polished, but something felt different. He replayed the scene again and again. The look on Seagal's face calm, steady and unshaken. The strength in that silence unsettled him more than any blow ever could. For years Cole had ruled through fear. He believed authority meant total control. That soldiers followed orders because they had no choice. To him, respect came from rank, not from character. But that belief was now cracked. He rubbed the back of his neck where tension still lingered. "How did it come to this?" he murmured. A knock sounded at the door. "Sir," came the voice of Lieutenant Andrews, one of his most loyal officers. The general straightened. "Come in." Andrews stepped inside with hesitation. "Sir, permission to speak freely." Cole nodded. "With all due respect, sir, what happened today was not weakness." The general looked up. "What do you mean?" Andrews took a steady breath. "Seagal did not embarrass you. He showed us something we had never seen. Control. Discipline. He could have injured you, sir, but he chose not to. He stopped it before it went too far." Cole leaned back in silence. Andrews continued, "You taught us that strength means dominance. But today we saw another kind of strength. The kind that does not need to prove itself." For the first time in many years, the general had no reply. He stared at his desk, deep in thought. At last, he dismissed the lieutenant with a quiet nod. When the door closed, he stood and looked out the window again. Across the courtyard, he saw Seagal training with young soldiers. They were focused, active, and engaged. Seagal moved them through defensive techniques. Simple actions that stressed control instead of aggression. Every man watching was fully attentive. The general watched for a long moment, then released a slow breath. He straightened his collar, squared his shoulders and left his office. Whispers followed him again, but this time they were not rooted in fear. They were filled with curiosity. He approached the training ground slowly. The soldiers noticed him first. Conversation stopped. Seagal looked up, his face unreadable. The general stopped a few feet away. Silence made the moment heavy. Then something unexpected happened. The general extended his hand. "Mr. Seagal," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology." The word struck the air with weight. Even Seagal paused briefly, studying his face. "I was wrong," the general continued. "About you. And about what strength truly means." Seagal looked at the handshake offered and accepted it firmly. "It takes real strength to say that, General." The general nodded. "You taught my men more in one afternoon than I have managed in years." Seagal offered a faint smile. "They already had it in them. You just needed to remind them why they chose to serve." The soldiers exchanged glances, quietly encouraged. For once, their general was not shouting orders. He was listening. Cole turned to the men. "Listen up," he said. His tone was firm but different. Lighter. "What you witnessed today was not about who is stronger. It was about control. About knowing that being a soldier does not mean losing your humanity. It means protecting it in yourself and in others." The men stood taller, eyes locked on him. "From this day forward," the general said, turning to Seagal, "I want every soldier on this base trained under your program." A wave of surprise moved through the group, followed by quiet cheers. Seagal nodded with respect. "I will agree as long as we teach more than self-defense. We must also teach respect, compassion, and restraint." The general allowed a rare smirk. "You have a deal, Mr. Seagal." And in that moment, the two men who nearly clashed that morning stood side by side. Commander and instructor. Bound by mutual respect. As daylight faded into evening, soldiers gathered for the next session. Even General Cole stepped onto the mat with his men. Seagal led the warm-up, explaining each motion with calm precision. There were no ranks now. No pressure. Only discipline and quiet order. By day's end, every soldier had learned something far beyond physical defense. They saw that true strength is not about overpowering others. It is about standing firm when pride demands surrender. It is about the courage to admit mistakes and the power to change because of them. For the first time in years, even the general smiled. He looked toward Seagal and said, "I suppose I needed this lesson more than anyone." Seagal gave a soft chuckle. "We all do, General." By the next morning, the base was active in a way no drill or inspection had ever created. Soldiers whispered in the mess hall. The smell of toast and coffee filled the air, yet no one noticed. Every conversation returned to the same moment. The hair grab. The calm response. One cadet muttered, "What did I witness yesterday?" His friend replied. He stayed calm like nothing touched him. Outside, some soldiers replayed short clips from unofficial recordings. Within hours, the footage spread through private groups, then across military social networks. Before noon, the hashtag Seagal Respect was trending in several countries. Steven Seagal walked across the training field, unaware of how fast the story had traveled. He focused only on the soldiers, guiding them into defensive positions and explaining awareness and calm under pressure. Still, he felt the attention growing. Nearby, the general spoke quietly with officers. He replayed the moment again in his mind. He expected anger or chaos. Instead, he met calm mastery. The lesson was clear. Authority means little without respect. Online, reactions grew rapidly. Clips showed the grip, the counter, and the way Seagal helped the general afterward. Millions watched, shared, and commented. This is real strength. No strike was needed. I want my children to see this. Respect over power. The base became a topic of discussion everywhere. Journalists requested interviews. Analysts broke down the movement in slow motion. Military experts focused on technique and control. Viewers focused on the moral message. Humility. Restraint. Patience. Back on the base, soldiers grew quiet as the general approached Seagal again. "Mr. Seagal," the general said with quiet respect. "I have never seen anything like that. You taught us more than any drill ever could." Seagal nodded. "That is the purpose, sir. Discipline is more than strength. It is control, restraint, and the courage to act with integrity." Some soldiers whispered in disbelief. He is not boasting at all. The general is actually listening. Later, the footage reached mainstream media. Headlines read, "Martial artist demonstrates power of control. Seagal shows restraint over force." Thousands of comments praised his composure and the lesson he delivered without arrogance. Across every platform, the same message echoed again and again. Strength is not always about fighting. Sometimes it is about staying calm when chaos surrounds you. Even the general, reading those reactions, allowed himself a quiet smile. He had been right that Seagal commanded respect. He had only misunderstood what that truly meant. Seagal continued training the base. He focused not only on technique, but also on ethics, awareness, and humility. The soldiers who once feared the general now found themselves learning more from Seagal than from any drill instructor. His calm mastery quietly influenced everyone around him. By the end of the day, the story had spread worldwide. News outlets, sports channels, and social media creators all covered it. The hashtag respect over power trended globally. People shared their respect for Seagal's measured control and for the message it delivered about authority, ego, and real strength. As evening arrived, Seagal watched the soldiers training. He did not smile or boast. He simply observed and guided when needed. The lesson had already moved far beyond the base and reached across the world. Control, respect, and calm strength always prevail over force and pride. The general approached quietly. "I think we both taught everyone something today," he said. Seagal nodded. "Yes, sir, and it was not me who taught it. It was the moment itself." In that silent recognition, the base had already changed. What began as a confrontation had become a lesson greater than anyone expected. Have you ever been in a situation where someone disrespected you but staying calm made you stronger? Comment your story below and tell us where you are watching from. By the next morning, the story of the incident had traveled far beyond the military base. Soldiers, civilians, and social media users around the world replayed the footage repeatedly. The general pulling Seagal by the hair, Seagal's composed response, and the way he resolved the situation without a single act of aggression. The hashtag respect over power had gone viral. News channels in several countries analyzed every moment. Martial arts communities praised Seagal's control. Civilians reflected on the moral lesson hidden in a few seconds of tension. Everyone agreed on one thing. This was not just about strength. It was about integrity. Back at the base the atmosphere felt different. Soldiers greeted one another with nods of respect instead of quiet tension. The General Harrison Cole had spent the night reflecting. He knew he had been humbled and the feeling was unfamiliar, uncomfortable yet enlightening. He walked to the training ground where Seagal was already supervising a new session. Cadets moved in unison practicing the defensive techniques from the previous day. The general stopped at the edge of the field watching in silence. Seagal noticed him and nodded. "Good morning, sir," he said simply. "Morning," the general replied in a softer voice. He cleared his throat. "I have watched the footage more times than I should admit." Seagal remained quiet, his expression steady. "I underestimated you," the general said nearly in a whisper, "and I underestimated what discipline and control truly mean, not just for me but for everyone here." The soldiers nearby took notice. They felt the importance of his words. "I want to make this right," the general continued. "I have already spoken with higher command about your methods. I believe the entire base should learn directly from you." Seagal offered a small smile. "I am honored, sir, but remember the lesson is not only about technique. It is about awareness, restraint, and humility." The general nodded with understanding. "And I want the world to see this as well, not to praise you but to show that real strength does not require domination." By late afternoon global media had reported the official acknowledgement. Footage of the general publicly commending Seagal spread instantly. Comments poured in. Even a general admits he was wrong. Seigel's calm response is a lesson for every leader. Strength is not built on fear. It is built on respect. Seigel remained focused on training. Yet everywhere discussions continued online, in public, and even in other military institutions. The story sparked conversations about leadership, integrity, and calm authority. At the next training session the general stepped forward. "All soldiers," he addressed, his voice carrying across the yard. "What you witnessed was a lesson in control, respect, and courage. You will remember this not because of me but because of the man who stood before me with patience and mastery." The soldiers responded with restrained applause. Some recorded knowing the moment would spread. Seigel said little. He nodded while offering corrections and encouragement. Every gesture reinforced the lessons of the past 2 days. Humility, discipline, and moral strength. Even the general remained nearby watching. He had learned that authority without respect has no meaning, and that Seagal's steady composure had delivered the most powerful lesson. Power grows stronger when used with restraint. The world outside the base continued to watch. Millions viewed, shared, and debated the lesson. Leaders, athletes, and martial artists called it an example of true mastery and ethical leadership. Then came the engagement moment. In comment sections across platforms millions debated. "Do you think Seigel handled this perfectly by staying calm, or would you have reacted differently? Comment below and share your city and country." Seagal observed the reactions quietly. This was not about attention or ego. It was about spreading a message anyone could understand. Real power is not shown through force but through control, respect, and restraint. As the general passed him again there was no tension, only mutual respect and understanding, and the quiet awareness that one calm moment can reshape an entire institution and inspire millions. The base, once ruled by fear and rigid command, had changed into a place where discipline and humility existed together. All because one man chose patience over pride and calm over conflict. The footage would last. The lesson would last even longer. The incident became more than a viral clip. It became a global lesson in humility, strength, and respect. By the time the sun set across continents, millions had watched, analyzed, and discussed its meaning. From martial arts schools in Japan to military academies in the United States, from European social feeds to Asian news stations, Seagal's composure and the general's transformation were being examined and respected. Inside the base, life had shifted quietly but permanently. Soldiers stood taller, not from fear but from understanding. Even the youngest cadets spoke with confidence and humility. Conversations changed from rivalry to reflection. They no longer asked who was strongest but who carried the most integrity. General Harrison Cole had changed as well. The following morning he called a full gathering, not to command but to share what he had learned. Standing before the soldiers he spoke calmly. "Yesterday I made a mistake. I allowed pride and anger to guide my actions. But thanks to Mr. Seagal I learned a truth I should have known long ago. Strength is not measured by how we dominate others but by how we control ourselves." The soldiers stood in silence, absorbing his words. For a leader once feared, this admission carried weight. Seigel beside him spoke only a few words. "Control, respect, and patience are not weaknesses. They are power." The general's gaze met Seagal's and the entire base saw their mutual respect. One had nearly attacked the other, yet both walked away stronger. The general humbled, Seagal composed, and the soldiers inspired. The story spread rapidly through international media. Headlines highlighted respect, discipline, and calm strength. The videos gained millions of views in a single day. Analysts reviewed the technique. Commentators discussed the lesson. Viewers shared stories of resolving conflict through patience instead of aggression. Even public figures joined the discussion. Social media overflowed with praise for Seagal's restraint. One user wrote, "This is the ultimate lesson in humility." Another said Seagal did not strike and that is what made him unstoppable. The general, fully aware of the attention, embraced the moment with humility. He thanked Seagal publicly and stated, "This is not about embarrassment, this is about learning, and I learned far more than expected." Meanwhile, Seagal returned to training, guiding his students quietly, showing that discipline extends beyond technique. Every movement carried the same message that had silenced the general. Strength without respect is meaningless. Power without restraint is dangerous. True mastery lives in balance. Online, people shared slow-motion breakdowns and discussions. Millions commented that this redefined leadership. Seagal did not win by force. He won by teaching respect. The general learned, and so did the world. Parents showed the clips to children to teach patience and integrity. Teachers used them in classrooms to demonstrate calm problem solving. Military leaders cited it as an example of restraint under pressure. On the base, the change was visible. Soldiers no longer feared the general. They respected him and themselves. Training now included moral awareness alongside physical discipline. Seagal's steady guidance turned the base into a model of excellence, blending skill with character. One evening, Seagal walked along the training ground. He saw the general now interacting differently, listening, guiding, and teaching rather than commanding. Seagal knew the lesson had moved far beyond them. It had reached millions, showing that courage is not always loud and strength is not always visible. He paused and looked toward the sunset as wind moved the flags in the fading light. The story would last longer than the videos. The lesson would carry forward. Power can be taken by force. Respect must be earned through integrity. Seagal turned toward the hall, ready to guide the next generation. The general followed, not as a superior but as a man who had learned a lasting truth. If you believe strength is proven through respect, restraint, and calm under pressure, type honor in the comments. Share your story of staying calm in a heated moment and subscribe for more inspiring viral stories. The sun disappeared beyond the horizon. The base quieted, but the message had reached the world. Across every corner, millions learned from one moment of restraint, one act of humility. And the name Steven Seagal would be remembered not only for strength but for wisdom. That is how a general's pride, a martial artist's calm, and a single moment reshaped a base and inspired the world.